Thank you. So
Welcome to Texas.
it's nice to be back in Dallas again. And my name's Steve King, and I've got this book, 11/22/63, and the people from the Sixth Floor Museum at the Dallas Book Depository helped me a lot, and so I wanted to come down and do something to help them if I could, and here I am, and that's all I know.
You want to start off with basically why this subject matter and why you wrote this book?
Well, I wrote the book. I had the idea for the book in 1971, and it was 11/22/63, and I was in the teacher's room, and people started to talk about the anniversary. There were a couple of people at the publisher who saw the title page of the manuscript when the manuscript came in, who had no idea of the significance of the date, and that's a generational thing. But in 1971, 8 years after the assassination, it was as fresh as 9/11 is now. And people started to talk about what might have happened if Kennedy hadn't been assassinated, and what a sort of series of events that allowed it to happen at all. And I thought, there's a book in this. There's a great, great story here. Time travel story. Guy goes back, and I got about 25 pages in. I got all this stuff about the man finding out that there was a time rift in the back of this diner, and the guy who discovered it couldn't use it anymore because he had cancer. And then I came up against this thing where there was all this research involved, and I didn't have time, and I didn't have the resources to get anybody to help me to do that, because, you know, I had 2 kids. I was making $6,400 a year, and there were no things like Google or Bing or any of that stuff at that time. It was all shoe leather work. So, and the other thing was I wasn't capable then. I was still new at my craft, and it was obviously a huge project. And so I just put it on the shelf, and I'm really glad that I did for all kinds of reasons. One is it was too soon. Afterward, a lot of the people who were involved at that time were still alive. Jacqueline Kennedy was alive. Both of JFK's and Jackie's children were alive. It wouldn't have been right. I don't think I realized that then, but I do now. And 48 years is enough distance. But, you know, the idea just never left my mind. It was just too good, and it was too simple, and it had, to me, it had a lot of dramatic pop. So finally I got around to write it. I have a friend, Russ Dorr, who helped me with research on Under the Dome, and it was natural for me to turn to him. And between the two of us, we started to amass this huge backlog of material about the assassination. And really, I wanted to tell a story about this one guy. This is a long-winded answer to a very simple question. Ask me a complex question and you'll get yes or no, probably. But am I happy with it? Yeah, I'm delighted. The reviews have been good, and it was a lot of work. And part of the job, I think, was trying to make sure that the story was the star, and then I wasn't going to write a lot of history stuff. So somebody else ask a question. Where's Joy? Joy, ask a question. Joy, hey.
Oh, you want me to ask a question?
Yeah, ask me anything.
Let's see. I'm curious why you consented, being Stephen King, you don't have to tour, to do 2 events in Dallas. I mean, it seems, you know, we never get you, so it's great.
I wanted to do something for Dallas. For one thing, I wanted to do something that was bookstore sponsored, because the bookstores are all under siege, and anything that I can do to help that way is a great thing. And I wanted to do it in Dallas because this place just sort of opened up to me. Everybody that I met here when I was doing the research was terrific, and the Sixth Floor people in particular were terrific. But I want to come back. And the other thing was I wanted to come back sometime when it wasn't colder than a well digger's belt buckle and sleeting and snowing and everything. And this has just been terrific. My wife's up home and she's freezing her tail off. So.
How much time have you spent in Dallas over the years?
I haven't spent very much. I have relatives in Plano, so we've been down there a bit and we've been into Dallas, but the only really extended trips that I've made are this one and the trip when I came down to visit the depository and try to get the lay of the land. So, not enough. And I'll pay for it. I've paid for it a little bit already. There was a review in the Houston Chronicle that pointed out that I'd misspelled the name of the town, Killeen. I used one L and it's two L's, and that's nothing but my bad because it was right in front of me on the computer, but I did it wrong anyway. And then, this is the kind of thing, you told me this, Joy, because I did an interview with Joy. There's a station in Dallas, KLIF. And in the book, the kids call it K-Life because it just seemed natural to me. And I found out from Joy that they call it Cliff because it's Oak Cliff. Stuff like that. That's what happens when you write about a place that you haven't been familiar with for 1,000 years. The book. Okay. This is Katie Monahan from Scribner's. Katie, all right.
Will you be doing anything significant on the anniversary this year?
No. No, the tour will be over then, and I don't have any plans for the anniversary whatsoever. Except to be sorry that we have a day like that on the calendar.
Did you talk to any of the principals that maybe are still alive, like Detective Lavelle or anybody like that?
No, sir. No, I didn't.
Talk a little bit about what kind of things the sixth floor, I mean, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but the sixth floor and the library, the kind of things they were able to give you access to that you couldn't have gotten without their help.
I couldn't have written the book without spending time on the sixth floor. We were given permission to videotape, which helped to a degree, but for me, the process is really a visual process. For all I know, that may be why so many of the books I've written have been turned into movies. I have a clear visual sense, and I can't write about a place until I know what's on my left and what's on my right. So we went up there, and there was a reporter this morning from USA Today who asked me what I felt when I saw the place, whether or not it creeped me out or what. But all I felt was sort of this excitement. You know, the lights come on and you say, okay, here is where he stood with that rifle, and over there is where they were replacing the floor. And I asked about what it would have smelled like because of the plywood. They were planing wood and stuff. I really wanted to get a feel for that place, and I did. I think that, if anything, gave me the willies. It was looking out from where Oswald was with the rifle and seeing the X on the road by the triple underpass.
You have to repaint. You guys have to redo it? Or do you do?
No, the sixth floor has nothing to do with. No, we don't. No.
No.
It gets redone. I mean, it gets worn off. It's just right back there.
One of the things that I discovered after my visit to the Sixth Floor Museum is that there's apparently a cam, like a steady cam,
It's called an earth cam.
a streaming, what's it called?
Earth cam.
Earth
It's a
cam,
video.
yeah. So you can watch the cars go under the underpass and everything. I was a little disappointed that the Hertz sign is gone because I'd seen that in a lot of pictures. So in a way, it was like, for me, if you'd seen all of Clark Gable's movies, visiting Clark Gable's house, that's a crappy metaphor, but anyway.
Going back to you a little bit, can you listen on your emotion when you did see that for the first time and you're standing basically around?
Oh, well, the first time that I saw the depository, walking around the corner and looking at it, there was a real drop in my stomach to actually see the place where it happened. It wasn't really what I'd call morbid. It was more like almost a sense of predestination. And I felt the same thing my friend Russ traveled with me, and we went to 214 Neely Street, where Lee and Marina lived, and where she took the pictures of him with the guns and the Daily Worker. And seeing that and seeing the backyard where those pictures were posed, again, you get a real feeling of, yeah, this happened. This really did happen. These were real people who lived in Dallas. So.
You mentioned earlier about your film, a lot of your books being turned into films. Have you thought much about this one?
Yeah, Jonathan Demme is going to do it, the guy who did Silence of the Lambs. And Jonathan is a neighbor. He lives in the same town. Well, he's a summer guy, and we're more or less year-round. We go to Florida for 3 months of the year, but we turn 60, my wife and I, and it's the law. You have to go to Florida then.
Is there a book in there?
Yeah, I think there probably is a book in that.
I feel like you got a good lay of the land. I mean, did you go all over to Fort Worth and Irving?
Yeah.
Where it's,
Yeah. We went to Ruth Payne's house, and we went out to Mercedes Street. We had a great driver whose name was Martin Nobles, a long time Dallas-Fort Worth resident, and he drove us around. And I was hoping that Martin was going to be here tonight, but he's got the flu. He's retired now. He's an older guy, but he knew where all the places were. He took us around to Mercedes Street and showed us the vacant lot where Lee and Marina lived there at 2703 Mercedes Street. And he took us out to Greenville Avenue, which is now a little bit, I hope I don't sound like I'm putting Dallas down, but Greenville is a little bit yuppified compared to the way that it was. But I said, I had a scene in mind. I said, take me to where Dallas used to really rock and kind of rip and roar in the 60s. And he said Greenville Avenue, so he took us there. And then to General Walker's house, which is on Turtle Creek Boulevard, and the street behind it where the bus stopped and everything. I'm running on and on. I get excited about this stuff because I never did anything like this before.
Did you visit where
Go ahead, right here.
Can you recall where you were when the assassination happened and then address all the conspiracy theories that continue to float?
Yeah, I was, I'm sorry, am I not doing a good job here? I can take the mic and sing Dankeschön. Yeah. Anyway, where I was, I had just turned 17 2 months before. I was a junior in high school, and of course, here in Dallas, it's an hour earlier than it is on the East Coast, so nobody announced anything in our school. We got out, and the guy who drove us home, we had a guy that took us back and forth because I lived in a little town, and there were about 7 or 8 of us from that small town, and he took us back and forth, and he had the radio on, and he said, somebody shot the President of the United States, and he's probably going to die. And then it came on the radio that he had died, and Mike Yanko, the driver, said, they'll catch whoever did it, and then somebody will kill the son of a bitch. And that was pretty much what happened. So, and when I got home, my mother was in tears. She kept saying, that beautiful man, that beautiful man. And I was shocked at that. We were Republicans since, over on we weren't on the Mayflower. We came over first to get the houses ready. That was my people. But we were totally Republican, and she said the beautiful man is dead, and his poor wife, and thank God she wasn't hurt too, and think of the children, and there were a lot of tears. So, as far as the conspiracy theories go, I have no bone to pick with the conspiracy theorists. Whatever, they're going to have a bone to pick with me because they have really sort of entrenched views that Castro was involved, or that the mafia was involved, or that the Russians were involved, or that Lee Harvey Oswald was really not Lee Harvey Oswald. He was somebody who looked like Lee Harvey Oswald. But I'm a real believer in Occam's razor that 9 times out of 10, the simplest explanation is the true one. And I follow you know how they used to say, follow the money? Who was it that said that? E. Howard Hunt? Gordon Liddy? Nah, somebody. Maybe, I know, it was Deep Throat. Deep Throat told that, follow the money. But in the case of this, it's follow the gun. And the progression is very clear about that Mannlicher Carcano gun that Oswald used. Oswald was the one who ordered it from Chicago. Oswald was the one who picked it up when it came to the post office. Oswald was the one who was photographed with it in the backyard. Oswald was the one who used it to shoot at General Walker. Oswald was the one who took it to the depository, said it was curtain rods, took it up to the 6th floor, and Oswald was the one who shot J.D. Tippit after leaving the rifle hidden there. So when you follow the gun, you have to say, it was probably Oswald. And the conspiracy theorists, partially because Oswald was killed, and a lot because it's very difficult for people to believe that one unimportant man who wasn't part of anything could just step forward and kill someone and change the course of history.
I have one more question.
After spending time here, did you get a sense of the emotional impact that the assassination had on the city of Dallas?
No, I haven't been here enough to know that. I do know that when I came back to Dallas, I had one view of the city that was based on a lot of the material that I saw from the 60s. And I don't see that now. There's no sense of Dallas being a hateful city or being a hateful place. I've met nothing but friendly people here and people who are eager to help. And in some ways, it was a little bit like a friend and I went to a lot of the places where the civil rights struggles took in the 60s. And those seem to be the places where people have really put those issues to bed. And I feel the same way about Dallas. It leaves a scar, but one of the epigrams to 11/22/63 is a Japanese proverb, to the loving eye, smallpox scars can be as beautiful as dimples. And scars are scars, that's all. It's part of the history of this town, and Dallas seems to, my impression is that Dallas has dealt with that issue and pretty much put it to bed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.